So Jeff, just how much money are we talking about in modern day college athletics?
Well, it's a billion-dollar industry, and the reason there's so much money in the system now is there's two primary contributors. One is Nike, and they're the lesser of the two. But Nike has changed college football by apparel, meaning they not only outfit most of the programs in college football, Under Armour is in there as well, but Nike's the big one. But they not only outfit all the teams, so you see the changing uniforms and the colors and all that, which is great, but on top of that, and much bigger for Nike, is that they now stock all of the campus stores that sell the apparel that everybody's buying and wearing all over the place. The sweatshirts, the caps, the pants, the shirts, it just goes on and on and on. This is all Nike. And so it's become a branding instrument, the use and wear of all these colors. So Oregon started all this with the multicolored stuff. But that's become a very cool, hip thing to wear. And it's made that Oregon brand go all over the country. Everybody now recognizes it as these green and gold colors. That's Oregon. Well, that pattern has now flown to universities all. Oklahoma State does the same thing with the ever-changing uniform colors. When you do that with your uniform, that means you can sell 5 different colored Oklahoma State University sweatshirts instead of 1. It's not just orange. Now we got 5 shades. So Nike's one thing. Then much, much bigger as you get ESPN. The television money that's come into the game has changed college football forever. You think about simple things like now there are college football games on Thursday nights. Thursday is the middle of an academic week. When ESPN comes to town because you're on Thursday night, they shut the campus down. By noon on Thursday, on that campus, there are no classes. Parking lots are blocked off. You know, ESPN controls what happens on that campus. It's just changed the dynamics so much, and it's enabled teams in conferences that normally never get on television. So the teams that are ranked 5th and 6th in the conference, they can be on national TV every week now, because there's individual networks within the conferences, and ESPN has spread out the game menu enough that Thursday night, Friday, and then Saturday they space them from 12 to 4 to 8. And if you're on the West Coast, there's even one more game. That television money is what's driving the what I call building boom on campuses, where stadiums are going up, or stadiums are being torn down and rebuilt, where football facilities are being expanded. There's all kinds of construction going on, and the ESPN money is the catalyst for that. So all of these things, the apparel, the television deals, they've turned college football into a mega business that it was not 15 years ago.
So once again, your original point is everybody's making money except the student athlete.
Yeah, except the student athlete. It's kind of when you look at the NCAA behavior in recent years, when you drop the hammer on some kids because they had tattoos that were paid for by somebody else, or because you have a high-profile player who signed some autographs and he's accused of maybe getting a payment for signing his name on some stuff. Now, of course, if a pro player does that, nobody even thinks twice of it, right? And I wonder why, you know, this is such a big deal now with these players. When you think about a quarterback who's responsible for a university making arguably hundreds of millions of dollars, and he gets in trouble because he might take 100 for signing his name on something. In any other place in America, no one would think twice about that. But because he's a college athlete, that's a bad thing. I think that just shows you how the regulatory process for the NCAA is way out of line with what's actually going on the ground right now. And there's a lot of places where you can see they've got to either catch up or change.
Who runs the NCAA?
Well, here's a great thing. Recently, while we were writing the book, the president of the NCAA, who everybody thinks runs the NCAA, right? The president of the NCAA, Mark Emmert, said he didn't know where this was all headed, meaning college football and the money and the direction of the sport. No idea where this is all headed. If the commissioner of the NFL or the commissioner of Major League Baseball or of the NBA made a statement like that, the next day he would not be the commissioner. Mm-hmm. If the commissioner doesn't know where the league is headed, you can't run the league. And it just shows you that the president of the NCAA is not really running this. This is a train without a conductor. And it's a fast-moving train with a lot of people on it and a lot of money in it. And it doesn't really have a leader. it really doesn't have someone who's directing where we're going. And I think that nobody really knows, where this is ultimately headed, because we got a playoff system that starts next year. The amount of money pouring into the system is increasing by the year in big ways. And whether this is good for kids who play college football or not, I don't know. I mean, I tend to think that it's good if you're in this for the business element and you're one of the people profiting from it. This is fantastic. But if you're a player and you're not going to go to the NFL, I don't know.
Talking about academics, typically football players have some of the lowest graduation rates. Black football players have even lower graduation rates. And in our economy, where having a degree, or maybe more importantly a skill set that you can apply a trade with, a lot of these athletes don't have the time to even get the education that is offered to the other students that run that university.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to why the old argument for, well, they're getting a free education and they're getting the room and board, that's the trade-off for playing. That's actually not even fair anymore, because we cited a study in our book that shows that now for the first time, college football players are now spending more time on football-related activities per day than they are on academic-related activities in a day. That's a new thing. That's for the first time. That's a shift that suggests that the trade-off that we've been operating under, free education in exchange for the opportunity to play football, maybe isn't such a good trade-off anymore. And that's what I mean when I say that's the old model. Because, yeah, they're in school, but how much of an education are they actually getting? Like, what is the quality of that education? Is it something they will be able to transition into a job when they leave the university? Because they're not going to the NFL. So can they actually, are they employable? Gainfully employable because of their education experience? And for a lot of these guys, the answer is no, they're not. They may not have a degree. Yes, they were there for 4 years, but they haven't graduated. Or what they have a degree in is general studies or some other, thing that they can't translate into employment, so they end up being a security guard at the warehouse, or they're washing cars, or they're working at a Cineplex, selling tickets to movies. If you think about that, so that's what they got. That's not, now you go, now that's really not fair. And I think that's why you've got these arguments that are going on right now about whether to compensate players. It's all on the surface, and it's all holding on to these old cliches. Well, they're getting a free education. That's a great thing. Yeah, it's a great thing if they can actually get a real education, a real degree like students but they can't, because the other students that are in school actually get to go to school. They're not expected to spend 12 hours a day in meetings, in film sessions, in therapy, in a hot tub with a doctor, doing all this other stuff, not to mention traveling as much as they do. I mean, how much time can you really spend on academics when you're playing a road game on a Thursday night in another state? I mean, how much studying is getting done that week?
What is the role that college presidents need to play in talking about the system?
Well, if college presidents were really serious about fixing the system, and I'm not suggesting it can all be fixed, because I think a lot of this is beyond fixing, but if the college presidents were serious about improving the situation for student athletes who play football, they're the ones who really have the power at the level of the NCAA. The NCAA really ultimately does answer to the presidents of the universities, but the presidents are just sailing along. This is one of those things where they plug their nose.
The system works for them.
It does work for them. So they plug their nose, they plug their ears, and they shield their eyes, because a lot of what goes on here, they don't really want to know what's going on here. And we haven't even talked about concussions and brain damage and all the other ramifications of this sport, but there's a lot of things that they know are kind of ugly. And they know it's the exception, but it's also the front porch for the university. The college football programs are often the biggest marketing tool that the universities have. They're the reason that thousands of people are wearing the university's colors and apparel all over the country. It's football. It's football that brings the television revenue. It's football that fills the campus on Saturdays. it's the thing, and they know that. They don't necessarily like it, but they know that's the way the world is today. And so there isn't really a lot of presidents that are interested in standing and going, you know what, we have got to reform some of this. They're just riding along.
Are they leaving themselves vulnerable? I mean, we've seen the lawsuits about image and who owns the image of the players, but also some recent lawsuits about concussions that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think that the concussion thing is a huge, that thing is going to get bigger and bigger as the awareness grows and the injuries increase. And the injuries are going to increase. They're not going to decrease with helmet design and all this stuff. That's the reason the injuries are going to increase is because players are getting faster, they're getting stronger, they're getting bigger, they're hitting harder and harder. So you can all day long change rules about you can't hit below, above the neck, and the helmet is being re-engineered. That doesn't matter. In this game, where you have 22 men on the field at a time running full speed, there are going to be hits to the head. They may not be on purpose, but they're going to happen. There are going to be players that continue to get concussions and serious trauma to the body. And as the awareness continues to grow and the studies expand and more brains are studied, it's going to get more and more uncomfortable for people to cheer for this, because we're used to seeing games stop every week. We watch the game stop because someone takes a hit that requires the medical personnel to take the field, and we all get quiet and we all watch and we stand there. We wait till he gets on the stretcher, and then when they wheel him off, we all cheer, and then we play on.
The polite clap. Yes.
We play on, and until it happens again. And I think that that's probably going to be one area where college presidents, what you worry about is the individual liability of an institution if you don't treat a player properly. And when lawsuits start to turn away from the NCAA, right now it's all being directed at this amorphous body in Indianapolis. But if lawsuits start to get turned and the dial now focuses at a university, at a medical staff, that's when things will get really dicey, because that's not only costly, but from a public relations standpoint, it's very ugly, and it could be the future.
So if there ever is to be any real change, and you're not very confident about it, does it come down to us, the viewer that watch the game that the advertisers pay for, and that money basically gets filtered back to the institutions?
Well, we as Americans love football, and we tune in, and we love to watch the spectacle of it all. Frankly, people love the hits. They love the speed. It's a game that has a lot of violence in it, but it's controlled violence. It's legalized violence. It's the one place where you can go and you can hit someone as hard as you possibly can, and it's considered a good thing. And people like to watch it. The television rating numbers are off the charts. And so naturally the advertisers are there. And it's hard to say what needs to come first to change the way people look at football for what it is. But I don't see that changing soon. But I think over time, it's like anything else. This has to build, and people have to learn more. It's sort of like tobacco and cigarettes. That didn't happen overnight. We look at tobacco a lot differently now than we did 50 years ago. And I think football will be like that. We will see it a lot differently a generation from now than we do now.
Well, Jeff Benedict, certainly a fascinating read, something that I think whether you're a football fan or you're interested in academics, anyone needs to read this book. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to learn more about some of the positives Jeff Benedict found while following OSU's football team and its mega booster T. Boone Pickens, just head to okhorizon.com, where we have that streaming under our value-added section.